Here's your host, Jack Nolan.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Brian Kelly Radio Show, the final Brian Kelly Radio Show of the year. We are very pleased that we have another great crowd tonight. Coach is very close to arriving here. I want to thank O'Rourke's for another great season of the Brian Kelly Radio Show. They have been great hosts. And, of course, we want to thank all the great support we get from all of our fans here. And, of course, the head coach of the Fighting Irish, who has just entered the building, Brian Kelly. They cheered really loudly right at the start of the show, and you were getting out of the car. So I guess we got to get them fired up.
It's my wife. My wife is the cheerleader.
Pocky is here. Her mom's here. Your mom and dad are here. This really is for you a family affair. Your brothers will be out there. Your sisters will be out there.
We were just saying, Jake Flint and his family. Jake.
He never misses of the strength and conditioning staff.
He has not missed in, I think Jake has got 9 years straight, right, Jake? 9 years in a row. 6 years here, 3 years at Cincinnati. And Beth Rex, 9 years in a row. So, yep.
I know.
Perfect attendance for 9 years. My gosh, I would have skipped my own. I would have skipped.
But I do also want to thank you. We usually do it at the end, but I usually don't leave enough time at the end. But you don't just go through the motions. You have to be here, but you put great energy in here. And I have to be honest, the stuff you say on this show is the same thing you tell the team, your staff. You tell us behind the scenes. And if you listen to the show, you get a pretty good idea of what's going on with your football team.
Well, the message is pretty consistent. I think one of the things that we try to do is eliminate confusion, with everybody in the program and including our players. And they hear the message pretty consistently on a day-to-day basis.
So let's get to what happened earlier. I know it's noise to a degree, but the playoff rankings came out again this week. And in the words of committee chairman Jeff Long, Notre Dame is a solid number 4. And that's what I want to zoom in on. You have to feel good that they are sticking to their word that strength of schedule is important because you have the best strength of schedule of anybody who's ranked in the playoff rankings right now.
Yeah, it's a body of work. It's not, just 1 week here or there. It's what you do week in and week out. And we've had to overcome a lot to continue to play at the high level that we have played at. And I've had to go on the road and play, very good teams. We've had, teams now, if you look at the schedule, it's not just the strength of the schedule, is, winning teams as well. And we've got 4 wins over teams that have won 7 or more games. Oklahoma, TCU, Baylor, and Oklahoma State combined have, I think, 1 win over a team with 7 wins. So take those 4 teams, combine them, and they've got 1 win over a 7-win team or more. We've got 4 ourselves. So I think that'll tell you a little bit about where we are in terms of, you keep hearing all about, the strength of schedule, but it's also about the teams that you're playing. And the eye test is one thing, but if you're playing somebody that's playing, a losing record team, you're going to look pretty good against them each and every week. So we feel like, look, we've still got a lot of work ahead of us. We got to beat a very good Boston College team that has the number 1 defense in the country. And that's going to be a challenge for us, and that's really our focus right now.
Well, and I jotted just some notes down. They're number 1 in total defense. They're number 1 in tackles for losses. They're number 3 in scoring. They're number 1 in rushing D, 5th in passing yards allowed, number 1 in first downs allowed. And I know they played a couple of SCS teams, but even if you take that away, these rankings still stay in the top 10. And that's got to be a little scary because this is another one of those games where everybody in the world expects you to win. It's the Shamrock Series, Notre Dame going to Boston. It's going to be a big party.
Yeah.
But especially, I think you almost have to be more concerned when the team's number 1 on defense than when they're number 1 on offense, because that means they have the capability of stopping you.
I would agree. I think the defense, certainly, obviously can change the outcome of a game. And then, being in Boston, certainly, they're from Boston and they're being overlooked in their own city.
They're like 3 miles from Fenway Park.
Right.
Yeah.
So, clearly the nice part about it is it seats 37,000 and we're going to have 32 of the 37,000 tickets. So that's a good thing.
You rent the building, it's your game.
It sure is. It's our gig.
I've been seeing some pictures today. I mean, it's just spectacular. They've turned the Green Monster scoreboard into both a history of the Shamrock Series, but the scores, they've always had the out-of-town scores, and now it's the playoff ranking scores. Yeah. So it's going to be a great event, but we talked on your TV show about how for you, it's a work trip once you get there. That said, you and I both grew up in Boston, and there's something about it. It's in our DNA. Even if you played football or basketball, baseball's the sport that our fathers passed to us. So at any point when you went out on the field on Saturday night, are you going to be able to take even 30 seconds just to absorb the magnitude? Because if you're from Boston and New England, that's sacred ground.
Well, I'll go out, in pregame and get that, feeling of looking around and being on the field in pregame. But, once the game starts, it's all about the game and winning the football game. But, take a few minutes during pregame and look around and just, just pleased that we were able to put this together. A lot of work behind the scenes to get this, obviously the game that we all wanted to get at an iconic venue in New England. You couldn't have, put together a better place than Fenway Park. Because
the Green Monster is there, they've made a great decision for the fans. Because usually in Yankee Stadium was the same thing. The great seats for baseball aren't great for football because they're standing in front of you. But both teams are going to be on the other side where the Green Monster is. So those lower seats are going to be great. But you went into detail tonight in your last media briefing before the game, and I hadn't really thought this through. There are some real, people are wondering you're going to be standing next to your rivals, but there are some real logistical problems in game operations, substituting, getting plays in, that this creates.
Well, just take it, just this scenario. Say you're, we're closest to the center field bleachers. That's our sideline. Let's say we're coming out from the 5-yard line, closest to the third base, home plate, and we want to change personnel while the clock's running. Well, they've got to run all the way up to the 45-yard line, and we've got to switch personnel while the clock's running and get the play in. That is a huge management issue. While we're doing that on offense, they're going to be holding the ball so the other team can get their players on the field too. So it's scary in one sense because the management of it is so different than what you're used to. That we've had to go over and over this week how to get this accomplished without putting yourself in a timeout situation or a delay game. So we've put wristbands. We've used wristbands now. We've got curtains that we're going to use to hide the signaling because you're going to be standing right next to somebody with a headset from the other team if you're close to midfield. So there's some logistical situations. We were going over goal line. Let's say our defense is on the other side of the field or the other end of the field, and you want to call goal line. Well, you can't yell goal line; they can't hear you.
Yeah.
So if you're the corner who's coming out, you got to know that all those big fat guys coming in, they're coming in for you, and you got to get off the field. So we've got to come in with more signaling and more signs and things of that nature. It's just a lot more management.
But, I mean, it's such a wonderful venue, and the game it's part of the contract because I've gotten a lot of questions about it. It's on NBC Sports Channel for this game, not on NBC, but I know just about everybody around the South Bend area does have that. That's part of the contract. But it is, I mean, Twitter was just filled with photos today from well-known sports commentators, sports business commentators, and they're just raving over how Fenway, one of the icons of all sports stadiums in the U.S., has been transformed. And we're showing some video right now, watching day and here in the stadium. Here's what they did to put in the field. It's been transformed into Notre Dame Stadium, Boston right now. It looks really cool.
Yeah, I think that, we got some pictures of it because, again, the things that we were trying to do with the logistics. But, the sight lines look great. Our guys are going to be up in a box that gives them a great opportunity to see the field. And again, I think the fans are going to get a terrific look at a field that, obviously is known to them as a baseball stadium and will always be known. But, it's been a hockey rink for some, and now it's going to be Notre Dame's home field for the Shamrock Series. So I think it's going to be pretty neat.
We touched on it at the top of the show about how the playoff committee is doing their job. They're watching the games. They're looking at strength of schedule. We spent a lot of time last week talking about so-called style points, and your team really did pitch a shutout against Wake Forest, and that's hard to do. They got a real wacky call that did allow Wake Forest to score 1 touchdown. That was good. Your offense was never not in control of the game, and there's one play I want to talk about because, as you mentioned again to me on your show, when you use the phrase, in the history of Notre Dame football, you've done something, and Josh Adams did the longest play of any kind, let alone run from scrimmage in the history of Notre Dame football. Here it is, his 98-yard touchdown run.
Well, I think it's the straight arm there for a true freshman to play that physical. And then you've got, senior Chris Brown and Will Fuller busting their butts to get down the field. I think that says a lot about, what kind of team we have, is that, these guys are going to do whatever they can to get down there. These are really good players that are busting their butts to get down the field. But look at this straight arm right here. This is going to go down there as one of the all-times. And then he's got the speed as well. Obviously for a big kid, what you don't see on that is that C.J. Procyse was sprinting down the sideline too. I think he ran right out of the box there, and it was pretty fun to see.
This is also a great tribute to the offensive line, and we're going to show this to Ronnie Stanley as well. He was on the other side of that line because they had really loaded up on his side, which also helped set up Josh on this play.
Yeah, it did, and you could see we've overloaded in our formation. We're kind of in an unbalanced situation here, and you could see again from the center over. They've got 5 guys to the left. We're looking at it to our right. And then Josh obviously hits it to where the numbers are fair, and he's just got to make one guy miss, and he does a great job.
So now you're down to your number 4 or number 5 running back on what would have been the preseason depth chart, certainly the one coming out of spring. And I bring that up because it's a good comparison game, I think, for this. When you got here, you talked about the need to build depth through recruiting. Clearly, you have done that with all the key guys you've lost, and not just other guys coming in and playing good football, but excelling. Let's look at Boston College. They say defense wins championships. They have the number 1 defense in the country, but they're struggling. They lost their quarterback, and they didn't have anybody else who could step in like a Deshaun Kaiser and really Malik, in a sense, stepping in because, you made no announcement. Everett was going to get a lot of snaps this year had he stayed.
Sure.
So now you're down to maybe number 3, but excelling, whereas BC's season basically was shot in the foot when they lost their quarterback and some other key guys on offense.
Yeah, I think a running back, obviously,
Yes.
Again, I think many teams are looking at the model that, we have, and then last year Ohio State, is that, you can't build your program properly unless you have 2 quarterbacks. And it's difficult sometimes. Everybody wants to play. But the reality of it in college football is that everybody's going to get a chance sooner or later. If you just stay patient and continue to work, you're going to get your opportunity. We saw that here happen many a time. So to not have that second guy ready, I think it's pretty incumbent upon the coaching staff to go out and recruit and find those guys. We did it running back. We have done it on the offensive line. We've built depth really virtually everywhere except maybe we're a little thin still in the secondary. We're going to address those needs this recruiting season, and I think now we've built the proper depth at every single position.
And as we wrap up this segment, I think also make the point, and when you get older, you have the perspective. You certainly have it because it's your job. I've been an observer forever, but being part of a winning program has as much, if not more, value than putting up big numbers. And if you're a great athlete and you're part of a winning program, even if you don't have the most dominant numbers in the country, those NFL scouts are going to find you.
No question. I think it's one of those things where if you win football games, they're going to be here. And you're always going to have a couple of guys that are going to be at the top end, but it's getting the opportunity. They're going to come and find you, especially a place like Notre Dame that has had such great respect from so many of the NFL programs. So they'll get their opportunity, and they only need 1 year to show it.
And because just like you recruit, they want guys from winning programs. They'd rather have a guy from a winning program than maybe somebody who had spectacular numbers, but his teams never really won.
And it's the same way we recruit out of the high school ranks.
All right. This is the Brian Kelly Radio Show. We have a couple of great player guests. We have lots of great player questions, so we need to take a break, and we'll be back with much more right after this. Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Radio Show, folks, and I think we can say goodbye to 80-degree football game days. It's time to start thinking about tires, winter tires. Our friends at TireRack.com, presenting sponsors of the Brian Kelly Radio Show, have what's right for you. Headquartered just a few minutes from Notre Dame Stadium, their experts know a thing or two about driving through winter's worst. And when they're not driving in it, they're on the test track or maneuvering around on the ice at a local hockey rink for winter tire testing. Get to know the experts at TireRack.com. Find, deliver, and install. And speaking of the weather, I know there was concern about playing Shamrock Series in a northern city so late. But you're going to have a lot better weather in Boston than we're going to have here on Saturday.
It appears that way, but, I think it's going to be, again, when you're in November, you're going to have to deal with the elements, and I think we would have been prepared no matter what the conditions. I think we had a couple years back that BYU game with the snow, and I think it was about 25 degrees, and we kind of managed it. So we were outside today. I thought it was pretty blustery today. We had some winds gusting up to about 35 miles an hour. Our kids handled it quite well, and we're excited about BC. Again, the thing that concerns you the most is the kicking game. When the wind blows, but cold, snowy, we're not concerned about that at all.
Craig Forsyth is here from Mishawaka. Please update us on injuries and folks returning from injuries, please.
Well, we've got Nick Wisher back and C.J. Procyse on offense. So, those are obviously two big guys that, are back and going to be able to contribute, to the offense for us. I think that's big for us.
Pete's here from South Bend. Coach Kelly, your family has dealt with cancer twice. Our family was recently given the same diagnosis, and Notre Dame football has been one thing that has brought us all together in recent months. What advice would you have for us?
Well, ask for help. Reach out to all your family members and let them be there for you. You can't do it all yourself. So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to help you and let them take up a little bit of that slack for you. It's okay in that kind of situation, and if you do that, I think it definitely has helped.
Lots of folks from the local area here, as you would expect on a road game, and this is the advice I always give folks and throw it to next year. Still try to come to all the home game shows, but if you're from around here and you want a little better seat, it's the road games where you can kind of get in and get away from the folks who we love on their bucket list, who make this part of their bucket list. But we have a very nice full house, but some space here tonight. Lisa and Kevin Morrison are here from Granger. All they want to say is we want to take this opportunity to thank Coach Kelly and the senior class for a great 4 years. They tied the record for most wins in Notre Dame Stadium by a senior class.
Yeah, and we really, I take a little bit of issue with that record because, we started the Shamrock Series in the last few years.
You're right.
And we have not lost the Shamrock Series game. So
and actually, it's harder to win away, so you have the record that way.
And those are harder to win, and those are considered home games. So my illustrious SID threw that out at me the other day, and I said, boo-hoo to you, and our guys hold the record. So if you guys are with me on that, we hold the record. All right. It's our narrative. We're going to control it.
I have no disagreement with that. Kathy Scholes is here from South Bend, and she wants to know if you'll play in Ireland again.
Oh, we'd sign up for that duty anytime. It's just a matter of how we can, with the ACC commitment that we have in the other games, it's all right. So now taking those other games overseas, and it's a lot more complicated than it was when we didn't have that ACC commitment. But we would love to go over there again, and that's something that we talk about all the time.
And so, ironically, the last time you went over there, it wasn't your home game.
That's right. It was Navy's home game. That's right. So if somebody wants to play us over there, that's we'd be happy. Like a 13th game, we could do that.
That would be good. Nathan Sagan's here from South Bend, acknowledging BC has arguably the top defense in football. Does your game plan and play calling change at all to try and exploit whatever weaknesses they may have?
I think each and every week you game plan and play call to try to take advantage of where their potential weaknesses are. I think it's important to know what your strengths are and what your opponent's weaknesses are. Your strengths go against their weaknesses, and I think play calling should always be part of that process, and we'll have that going into the weekend.
Now, again, when you and I talk about how tough BC's defense is going to be a tough game, they think we're making stuff up. Well, Chuck Sossman is here from Granger to help support this. BC has played 2 ranked teams. Clemson only scored 27. Florida State only scored 14. BC averages 5 sacks and helps hold opponents to an average of 14 points. Once our comments, but you've already said it. That's just more evidence. This is a very good major college defense that you're going up against. And nobody should expect you to go out there and make it easy and roll over these guys.
No, we'll have to work for everything that we get offensively. They're a very difficult team to, move the football on. You have to stay at it for 4 quarters, and we know the challenge that's in front of us. We're going to have to do a very good job. We can't give them offensively, short field, short possessions. We've got to do a great job on offense. That the worst thing that we do at the end of our possessions is kick the football.
Jerry Liss is here, and Jerry has noticed that we salute people when they have their birthdays. Coach, I turned 50 on Monday. Can I call a play against BC?
Yeah, as long as it's working. So if you've got hindsight, I'd like some stock tips too, if you could.
By the way, Jerry, if there's a play that really doesn't work Saturday, that's going to be your play in the post-game interview. I just want you to know that. Carol Barber is here. If you haven't heard, and everybody at Notre Dame sent condolences, both of Doug Flutie's parents died within an hour of each other this week. And Carol's wondering if anybody's considered dedicating the game to the Flutie family. There will be a moment of silence. It is Notre Dame's game. I'm not sure you dedicate the game to him and then try to beat him as badly as you can. But Notre Dame has reached out, and I can't think of anything that's tougher to deal with than what he's going through this week.
Very sad, and our thoughts and prayers are with the Flutie family, and hopefully that Doug can take a little bit of an opportunity to use the game of football, which has been such an important part of his life, to find a little bit of closure in what was a great relationship with his family.
No, we talked about that in the office today. I don't know if you've heard if he's still doing the game. We kind of thought he would.
I think it's expected that he would. I haven't heard definitively, but the expectations are is that he is going to.
I mean, he'll be around his BC family. Unfortunately, my dad died the day before a Purdue game a couple years ago, and I did the game because what are you going to do, sit around and let it hurt you? And secondly, he would have come back from the dead and kicked my butt if I hadn't done the game. So hopefully he will be there, and exactly what you said.
Sure.
We've talked about the logistical concerns about both teams being on the same sidelines, but Kevin Morrison wonders if you have any other concerns about both teams in a very physical, intense game being right next to each other.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that plays. The emotional part of 2 teams playing and the proximity, I think it's more the logistics and signaling and, the coaches being so close, and, that's to me, the communications are more of the concern than, anybody having tempers and things of that nature.
Paul is here from South Bend. He says the offensive line coach has done a great job of recruiting and coaching. And we should point out that players, you don't divide it necessarily just by position. They're involved in that, but it's also region of the government. But he wants to know how you and Harry Heastan crossed paths and came together.
Well, Harry's name is pretty well known in the coaching ranks, and we were looking for an offensive line coach. I knew of him, and Chuck Martin, who was on staff, knew him as well. So, when we're looking for staff members, it's not just me, but if there's connections with other coaches that know him, that begins kind of the conversation about coaches, and so that's when we brought him in for an interview, and knew that he was the right fit for us at Notre Dame.
You're one of the top running attacks in the country, and I know talk again about weather, and I mean there's always concern when they just put the field down at Fenway, how firm it's going to be. They're very confident that it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But you said you now have great confidence that you have the running attack that you need to play late in the season in cold weather venues.
Well, I think, we've shown even, not just this year, in years past, that, you have to close games out running the football. And I think we've always been able to do that. And this year, even more so, I think that, we're well equipped to be able to do that. If you try to take away Will Fuller, you expose yourself to, I think what is a very good running game. So I think we're just better balanced maybe, and have that balance in the passing game that allows us now to be even more efficient in the running game.
You're listening to the Brian Kelly Radio Show, live from O'Rourke's Public House, presented by TireRack.com. Our special player guests will be up right after this timeout. We are, yes, it is live. This is live video and audio all across the world on Watch ND and locally on the radio. This is the Brian Kelly Radio Show, and please welcome our special guests. Two guys we know are going to be playing on Sundays next year, Ronnie Stanley and Sheldon Day. Guys, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
The first thing I want to start with is Senior Day, and you know that means I got to start with him. For the folks watching here in O'Rourke's and around the country, maybe the best Senior Day dance, you don't even want to see, it's on the screens right now, ever, between your mom, Carol Boyd, who I also had on the national radio show, and yes, she did it. She did the shout out, and people loved it from coast to coast. It melted ice in Alaska. Now, you guys claim you did not rehearse that. That just happened? Or was there a little rehearsal in advance?
You know, my mom, she's special, so I definitely rehearsed it with her because she wanted her moment to be perfect. So we definitely had a couple run-throughs and things like that, but it was her idea, so she came up with it. She's the brains of the operation.
It was classic. It was indeed classic, and you're a top-notch football player. You know you got to practice before you get on the field to do it right.
That's true.
But she didn't let anybody know that was going to happen.
Oh, not at all, not at all.
Now, Ronnie, I know it was a special day for you. Now, we're going to show yours as well. Your March Out to See your folks, it was a little bit lower key.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny because my mom wanted to do something like that too, and I was like, no, I'm just going to give you a big hug.
So have you heard since then? See, I told you we could have done that.
Yeah,
because you're from Vegas. You know how to be a little showy in Vegas.
Yeah, you're right. You know, so I just wanted to show my love and affection for my parents for, you know, just being there all the time for me and coming out to all the games to see me. Just wanted to be a simple and moment I'll never forget.
Now, obviously, emotional, especially for your parents, but the two of you guys had work to do. So how emotional was pregame for you, or was it just fun and then good, this is great, were there any tears? Were you fighting any tears, or was it, we'll worry about that later?
For me, it was definitely, if my mom cried, I was going to cry. And I told her before the game, I said, please don't cry because I don't want to cry on national television. So she held her tears in, so I held mine in. But as soon as that moment was over, it was time to go. So I kind of spoke to the D-line before the game and told them that we have to get after these guys early and kind of put them away early.
How about you, Ronnie? Emotional or after the game?
It was more after the game for me, actually. I was more just in the moment and then, you know, just back to business.
You guys both had to make a decision. You did not have to come back to play this year for Notre Dame, and you both decided to come back. I know you decided first, and then you decided second, or maybe you both just announced them in a different order. Why did you come back?
You know, I realized how much I'd be missing out if I didn't come back this year. And all the guys coming back, I made a lot of bonds with a lot of guys just like Sheldon and all the guys on the offensive line and in every skill group. So, and I knew how talented we were. We've been to, me and Sheldon personally been to the national championship before, and we saw the talent it took and the type of team it took, and we know we had the players this year, and we just didn't want to miss out on something special like that, and we knew that we could be a big help and a big boost to the players that this team had to offer.
Sheldon?
I definitely would say my degree. I just couldn't pass up on opportunity. You know, people come here for the degree, and the people just surrounding this place, and just leaving it on a bad note, something I couldn't do. And my mom had a huge weight on my decision. She definitely preached degree, education, because that can alter your life so much. And the guys in the locker room, we bonded so much over these past 4 years. I couldn't leave out without kind of putting a stamp on my career here, and it's just something special that we have going right now, and I wouldn't miss it for the world.
And it's tough for you guys to do this. That's right. Because we kind of live in an immediate gratification society. And, I mean, it's right there. Stardom's right there. And to turn that down, but I don't know if you talk to former players, but almost to a man, every player, whether it be Tim Brown and Bettis to guys that were just backups, have said football was never more fun than it was here, that it's not as much fun on the next level. Have you had any conversations with guys like that?
Yeah, I've had a few conversations with old players that played here and other places as well. Just been in the same shoes as myself. So I definitely took all their advice and I took it in and really tried to contemplate what was the best option for me and what ultimately would set me up better for my future. And along with that, just like I said before, the type of team that we had, along with what Sheldon said, getting your education, getting that degree would just make it that much easier process to get my degree that quicker. So it was overall just the overall best decision in my head at that time. So it just took me a while to come to it, but it was overall the best decision.
Now, there would be an assumption by fans that you get pressure from the coaching staff and Coach Kelly to come back. Got to come back. Got to come back. Now, Will Fuller announced last week that he was going to come back.
Yeah.
And I think the media expected Coach Kelly to do a little dance when he got in there that Will was coming back. He said, no, we're still going to have the meeting. We're still going to lay everything out, where he projects, what his options are. So how supportive was Coach to you? Because that surprised a lot of people that he wouldn't just say, well, I don't talk to Will now, he's coming back. That he wants you guys to know exactly what potentially is out there for you so that you make the best possible decision, not necessarily for the team, but for you guys.
Yeah, it shows that he cares a lot about us, not just on the football field, but also kind of changing our life situations. And if Will is kind of in a situation where he can be drafted high, I know Coach Kelly will fully support him in his decision. But he's definitely going to, pitch him to come back and do things like that because he had a meeting with me and Ronnie, and he definitely kind of outweighed and showed us the ins and outs of the draft process and things like that, and definitely gave us all the information we needed to make a good decision.
Helpful to you too, Ron?
Yeah, very helpful. Very helpful.
Let's take a look at what you've done on the field. You're 7th on the team in tackles with 37, but you lead the team in tackles for losses from defensive line position, mostly on the interior.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about another thing you're doing this year. We got a sack here that you got against Navy. Just talk about how you've gotten better this year, because I know all the scouts I read say that they think you've gotten better this year.
Coach Gilmore, all the praises go to him, and just Coach Van Gorder, the way they're putting me in the space and opportunities to make plays and things like that. And the way Coach Gilmore has kind of altered my game to kind of let loose and just be a playmaker, play confident, and play in my abilities. He's done a great job just kind of making sure that I keep working on my game, working on my technique, and making sure that I lead the D-line by making plays, but also being a vocal leader as well.
You also have 2 broken up passes because sometimes from the D-line you drop into coverage. When they first said, hey, Sheldon, you're dropping into coverage, what did you say?
I told Coach Van Gorder, you're crazy, and there's no way I'll ever cover a running back man-to-man because it's just something I could never see myself doing. But he put me in a situation, gave me the ins and outs of coverage, and now I can kind of see why we run certain plays. And my mind of football has grown so much under Coach Van Gorder, and he's just doing a great job with the defense.
Now, Ronnie, I know as an offensive lineman, you like not to be noticed. You just want big running numbers and you don't want to be noticed. But we couldn't have you here without having a highlight reel. We have a Ronnie Stanley highlight reel from throughout this season, which we're showing on Watch and D. People can see here in O'Rourke's, and tomorrow this will be posted on the web. So if you're listening and you want to see it,
it's kind of hard to make.
We're starting with USC here, but we're going to have more and more.
Make a good offensive line highlight reel, so we'll see.
Well, we've got a lot of good plays here. Talk to me about, you were already ranked as one of the best offensive linemen in the country last year. I've now seen you ranked either number 1 or number 2 in this year's college class. How do you think you've gotten better coming back for another year?
Just really focusing on the fundamentals, and I've got a great relationship with my coach, and he's really helped me focus on the things that make me better as a player personally, and just showing me the ins and outs of the position, and just putting myself in the best position every play.
And obviously a lot of these plays are against that 3-letter school, USC. How much fun is it beating them?
It's very fun beating USC, especially what happened to us last year. But for me personally, growing up, USC was a favorite team of mine. I always loved watching, Reggie Bush and all them guys playing. But then I decided to come here. All that love turned to hate and anger. So
Really
I had
quick.
to really fast. It comes to terms when you're the dude across from you who's trying to, hit your brains out. So it's just what you got to do. And I know the guys on the team, but when we're playing, it's an all-out war. It's a battle. So you just got to have that mindset.
Well, there's never been a championship team that didn't have a good offensive line. So people watching this all around the country and around the world should know we have these kinds of highlight reels for offensive linemen here because at Notre Dame we respect offensive linemen. So I hope you enjoyed seeing some of these highlights. When we come back, these guys are going to run the favorite of all fans, the 60-second drill of questions on the Brian Kelly Radio Show, presented by TireRack.com. Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Radio Show. Two of the stars of this year's team are up here with us, and they're about to answer some questions. Sheldon Day and Ronnie Stanley. You guys can give your own answer. You can pass. You can collaborate, whatever you want to do. The early ones are pretty easy. Favorite all-time movie?
Good Burger. You watch a lot of movies, Ronnie.
I know.
It's hard to pick a good one. There's a lot of good movies
I'll
out there.
go with Inception.
All right. Player on the team most like you?
I don't know. There's not really. I don't know. Who'd
Nobody
you say,
like
Coach?
you. You're okay. Ronnie's unique. Anybody like you? You're both unique.
Yeah, we're
I would
pretty,
say that. I would say I'm a unique individual.
We
Yeah, I
have
don't
unique
know.
individuals up here tonight.
I'll go Corey Robinson. We'll go Corey Robinson.
For you?
Like you?
Boy, yeah. We
You don't
we
play
act-
instruments.
You're right, but we have the same type of personality. So
Whatever, Ronnie.
ask Corey. Ask Corey if you don't believe me.
Favorite sport to watch on TV?
Soccer.
Soccer.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys like watching soccer on TV?
After playing
Yeah.
FIFA, yeah.
Better than football?
Yeah.
We watch a lot of football.
Yeah, football's work, right?
Yeah.
You said
Yes, you
favorite.
want to get
Yeah.
away. Okay, well that's I want honest answers to this. Most famous person you have met?
Ooh,
I'll go with Rudy Gay.
Okay,
Um,
could be anybody. Come to practice.
yeah. I don't know.
You're not
Vince
easily
Vaughn?
impressed.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn.
Okay,
Vaughn.
that's true. That's true. Now I'm glad you didn't default because some of your teammates are defaulting to Coach Kelly, and I think that's kind of lame.
We see him every day. He's not
I know,
famous.
but I'm just saying, you guys, you dug down deep and you came up with somebody. I thought Vince
yeah.
Vaughn was cool. All right, best nickname on this team and who has it?
Mark the Barrel Harrell.
Ooh.
He's been nominated before.
Has he?
Yeah.
That's good. No, that's good.
I would go Max Redfield, Chicken Hawk.
Chicken Hawk.
Chicken Hawk.
Why is he Chicken Hawk?
It's an inside joke. I don't think
All
I
right.
can expose that.
See, that's the other thing. I love these guys because they know where the line is. We don't get in any trouble on this live show. Best player to room with on the road?
Jerry. Oh my gosh, he's a character. The stories that we tell and the things, just learning about his individual self and the things that he did growing up is crazy. Just the Louisiana experience is.
You've been tweaking him all year. And this week's Showtime, you said, I hate rooming with you, Jerry. I can't wait to get away from you, Jerry. And he was hurt. He's like, really? Really?
We always give Jerry a hard time, man. He's a great kid, Just seeing how much he's grown over this past year is incredible.
Is he still Terry Gillery?
Oh, for sure. He'll never outgrow that name. He's definitely Terry Gillery.
Who do you think the best guy to room
I
with
would
on the road
say
is?
Quinn Nelson. That's been my roommate all year. He's been a great roommate. So
One thing you always hear from Coach Kelly at practice.
Should I imitate him?
yeah, do you?
Hold on, he's behind me though. Like, is that weird?
I don't know. He's looking at TV.
I'll pass. You go.
I don't know.
He won't hold it against you. What's he going to do now?
Wait, what's the question? Say the question again.
One thing you always hear from Coach Kelly at practice. All right, imitate him. Go ahead.
All right. So let's say Deshaun does something crazy. Deshaun, face turns so red. I was like, "Are you serious? What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?" And then he goes into this. You see this and you see that, Deshaun. So it's kind of cool.
I knew it was going to be good. I had to pull it out. I knew it was going to be good. And don't worry. Sometimes I ask your position coach, but I've been to practice. I won't ask what you hear most often from Coach Houston.
Okay. That's wise.
Toughest player to block on the team.
Sheldon.
Hardest hitter on the team.
I would, probably Isaac. Isaac hits pretty hard.
Yep.
I would probably go Jalen.
Okay.
He comes downhill.
Jalen hits hard. He does hit hard, but I think because Isaac's bigger, his hits are harder.
Toughest player to tackle on the team.
CJ.
All right. Best singer on the team.
Oh, Sheldon Day.
Sheldon, he's a pretty good singer.
Really?
Yeah, he's pretty
What do you like to sing?
I'm an R&B type of guy.
Really?
Nice and smooth and slow.
You got a couple lines? You wanna do it
Can I
here?
get a beat or is it
Somebody with musical talent. What kind of beat do you need here?
just a nice? Not that.
I
not
said,
that.
look, Well, you shouldn't be asking me. I asked. Did anybody here do? I don't have. All right. Boy, we have proved so many stereotypes here with that one question, haven't we? Best dancer on the team.
We got a lot of dancers on this year's team.
I know.
would
That's
definitely
why
say
it's
that.
a tough question.
I would say I was probably one of the top ones, but I kind of gave that role up to probably Elijah Shoemay or Chris Brown this year, more than likely.
All right. I know offensive linemen don't dance, right?
Not many of them. I dance, so, but.
Can you get up and dance for us? Or?
Nah, you were good. We're good.
Yeah, we're good. And yeah, they're afraid I might try to give somebody a beat again.
Trying to rest my legs.
Best comedian on the team.
Jay Hayes.
Jay Hayes.
All right.
Jay Hayes.
Worst comedian on the team. Guy who thinks he's funny, but he really isn't.
Chase Hounshell. Chase Hounshell. Chase Hounshell.
Best comedian on the coaching staff.
Coach Easton, for sure.
I would say Coach Gilmore. He makes us laugh every day. He's an old school guy, and his jokes are like, they're lame, so they're funny.
I think Coach Easton's hilarious.
Best dresser on the team.
Ooh.
I would go Matthias.
I would go Tyler Newsom.
Okay. Worst dresser on the team.
Ronnie.
It's definitely not fair.
He has shorts on, and it's 30 degrees
You
outside.
should be giving me credit for wearing shorts outside.
He's gritty. Your legs don't get cold. Now, if he was wearing a short sleeve shirt, it'd be
Yeah, it's, you're wearing a short shoes.
A shirt with a jacket?
All right, fine. Definitely not me, though. Okay. Well,
All right. Player on the team most likely to become a football coach.
Nick Martin
Joe Schmidt.
or Joe Schmidt.
All right. Joe is the default answer, but Nick is a good one, I think. And finally, guys, best thing about playing for Notre Dame.
The fans.
Fans.
All right. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Good luck the rest of the year.
Thank
Ronnie
you.
Stanley, Sheldon Day. We're back with more on the Brian Kelly Radio Show right after this. Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Radio Show, presented by our friends at TireRack.com. And while we're talking running, passing, and kicking, the experts at TireRack.com have cornering, traction, and performance of a different kind on their minds. That's why you'll be able to find exactly the tires you need when you need them. TireRack.com. Find, deliver, and install. And we have a bunch of questions that have been submitted on the internet as well. Irene Taylor from Salisbury Mills, New York, has submitted this question. Coach, what advice would you give to a young person who is either already playing football or thinking about taking up the sport?
Well, I think it's like anything else. I mean, you know, you have to be committed, and so whatever you start, I think you finish. And then that commitment means that, you know, you have to take the initiative on your own. You can't wait for your coaches to, you know, organize the skill development. So if you're truly want to play this game of football or any sport, you know, I think it requires, you know, a commitment from you outside of the traditional, you know, practice. So these guys that are playing that you saw here, these guys, they love to play, and it's a commitment that they make year-round to be the best they can be.
And you sit down and you get so involved with your players, and you mentioned it earlier, you're actually with your players more than you are with your family, especially during the season. We've had somewhere between 30 and 40 of your players on this show, telecast live around the world in front of big crowds, and they have all comported themselves so well. What does that mean to you as a coach to be coaching these kinds of young men?
Well, I mean, it's, you know, one of the draws of being at Notre Dame, that you get the opportunity to not only recruit but, you know, retain and develop these kind of young men. So recruit is one thing, but you know, develop and retain them here at Notre Dame. They don't go anywhere. You know, there's no transferring from Notre Dame. It's very, very unusual for somebody to leave. So you get a chance to develop them, and you get to see the work of that development. And you get to see a guy like Ronnie Stanley, and you get to see Sheldon Day mature and grow and become the kind of men that they are today.
And do you think part of that is because I've heard you talk recruiting and your assistants before, you don't try to trick anybody. You don't sugarcoat it. You make it very clear the positives, and it's all positives, but what they're getting themselves into and how hard they're going to have to work both to earn the great football experience but the great degree and the learning experience as well.
Well, you know, nothing is gained by trying to sell them you know, something that's not really meant for them. You know, to come to Notre Dame, you have to buy into community. You have to buy into the educational, the entire piece of Notre Dame is one that you've got to get your brain around and decide that this is important to me. I like to use the analogy that you're shopping down a different aisle when you choose Notre Dame. It doesn't mean we're better, but I think everybody knows there's different aisles in the shopping mark, and you choose this aisle. It's the spirituality, it's the community, it's the high academics, it's all those things, and that's why you choose Notre Dame. So why would you go and say, hey, we've got beaches and we've got high rises and
or it's going to be easy.
It's going to be really easy, it's not going to be. And so that's what we mean by, really make sure that we paint the right picture for everybody.
Kevin Cunningham from Orangeburg, New York, has sent us in a question. Coach, what NFL coaches do you admire?
Well, I mean, there's so many of them that have similar philosophies about developing teams. I think it's not really about, obviously I'm more into program building than I am X's and O's. So, guys that do it year in and year out consistently. Bill Belichick, obviously, has been the master of it, and what he does on a consistent basis in terms of getting his players to play a system within a program. That's one, obviously. Very, very much so like, what Pete Carroll's been able to do is to create an atmosphere and where those guys really enjoy coming to the football facility. Pete's been able to do that. I like the coaches that create an atmosphere for their players to be challenged and really enjoy the workplace. And those two guys stand out to me that they really enjoy coming to work every day.
We have one quick segment left. We'll get to it right after this final time out of the season on the Brian Kelly Radio Show. We are back in the Brian Kelly Radio Show. 40 seconds left. I know you're going to love that. Then you're done for the year. Keys to the game on Saturday.
Offensively, we got to get back to some big chunk plays. We've been really good at that. Take care of the football. Obviously 19-0 when we take care of the football. And defensively, continue down the same road of not giving up the big plays. Those are the three keys. Get that done. Get a win on our Shamrock Series and keep it undefeated.
Coach, thank you so much. Good luck Saturday and
Thanks,
the rest
Jack.
of the way.
Appreciate it.
O'Rourke's is off. Thanksgiving in terms of radio shows. In 2 weeks, though, we start the Mike Ray radio shows. You can still come on out. Thanks for coming all season long. Good night, everybody, and go Irish.
The Brian Kelly Radio Show, live from O'Rourke's Public